Now entering Nerdist.com.
Talk about nothing really, whatever, just for like 50 minutes.
Are we recording it twice?
Yes.
It's just because my, start. Are we recording? Yeah, I am recording this twice because I'm an incessant backer-upper.
And I
back up all my stuff on the cloud a couple times. I've got a network hard drive at home. I've got a regular time capsule hard drive.
You're constantly backing that thing up.
I was going to say, was that song written about you?
Yeah.
It really was. We're talking with Jon Hamm is here.
Hey, that's me.
Jon Hamm. Bearded Jon Hamm.
You can't see that. It's on the radio.
I don't understand how radio works.
It's not the radio.
It's not the radio. It's the internet.
With the mind's eye. Yeah, radio's dead.
But imagine, if you will, me, like I look in regular life, but just with more hair on my face.
Whoa, I don't understand. Could you walk me through that? Listen,
back.
I'm a network executive. I can't
understand.
picture things in my brain.
Go back to the first thing I said. Imagine me, regular me.
Okay, I got that picture.
Fine. Now, if
casual you?
Here's a better way to do it.
Okay.
Remember those games where you used to move the little iron filings around with the magnet?
I'm sorry. My parents didn't let me have toys. That's why I became an executive.
I always just put hair on his head.
Oh.
You're not an artist.
Never-
Everybody at home, look down at your genitals. See the big pubic area that's very, very furry? Imagine that on my face. Not a good example.
Wow.
Yours specifically. You at home, your pubic hair specifically on Jon Hamm's face.
There might be some people at home who are like, I have groomed myself in the style of Jon Hamm down there. A little madman sniz.
Yeah, my pubic hair is constantly has a cigarette in its mouth.
John, I first met you a couple years ago at the UCB Theater in LA, and Mad Men had already been on for a season, and I hadn't watched it yet, but everyone said it was great, and we met doing Jimmy Pardo's Match Game.
That's right.
And I said, "Oh, hey, congratulations on your show. I hear it's really good." Then I watched it, and I was like, "Oh, fuck, no, this is actually really one of the best shows on television," and it totally just blew my mind because you were so goddamn funny on Match Game. But your show is so intense that I don't think a lot of people who watch Mad Men. I mean, maybe they do now because you've done SNL and you've done some other stuff. But you're genuinely funny.
Oh well, thank you.
And we kind of nerded out about comedy. So what was your? Did you want to be a comedian when you were younger? Or did you do sketch or anything?
I really didn't. I was always a fan of it, fan of the form, as it were. And had watched SNL as a little kid, and watched Kids in the Hall, and Fridays and SCTV, and
Fridays, the Michael Richards
show.
Yep.
Or the Stuart Pankin show.
Stuart Pankin, Melanie Chardoff. I think she was on that. A lot of it, not necessarily the newscast.
That's right.
Came from Fridays.
And so it's kind of like it was just something to do. I was an only child. It was in the heady days before video games and internet. So you did things like watch television and listen to the radio and listen to albums. And I had
when you say albums, I don't understand.
try to imagine my face.
God, I don't get it. Okay.
So imagine my face fresh.
Wait a minute.
Flat,
so this is
made of vinyl.
This is a sound medium with a beard. I don't understand. Go back.
Lots of pops on that record.
I confuse easily. So you must have been a Steve Martin fan.
Steve Martin, sure. Steve Martin, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, Bob Newhart. Yeah, there's a wild card there, a little Bob Newhart. Basically, whatever I could get from the library. Do you want me to explain libraries? Do we still have libraries?
I don't understand. Libraries?
Oh, that's where I read my movies.
All right, so I'm checking out your beard at a factory. God damn it!
But no, it was just something that I was always interested in, and but the actual process of what comedians do and sitting down and writing something on purpose to be funny is mystifying to me.
You've been involved in
Alec Baldwin said something funny, like, because everybody was telling him how funny he is on 30 Rock and how amazing he is, and he's like, I don't even understand it. Like, I can be funny when people write funny things for me to say, but like Tracy Morgan can be funny sitting by himself in a room. He was like, I don't have that capacity, whatever that is. So I feel a little bit of the same way. Is just that if I'm placed in a room with other funny people, I can attempt to do that. But on my own, I'm hopeless when it comes to being funny.
But also kind of...
That's hilarious.
I don't...
Damn it! I did it again.
I can't help it, guys. Stop laughing. It's like some weird King Midas curse where everyone just laughs at everything. No, seriously, I'm having a stroke. It's hilarious.
The Emperor's new funny, hilarious clothes.
You guys don't smell toast? I smell toast. But also, I've got some big news for you because when I emailed you and I said, hey, do you want to come do the podcast? You said, sure, if you get me a copy of Red Dead Revolver. And John, my exciting news is that I have not found that for you.
That's weird. You can't find a video game from 8 years ago? It's so weird because usually those things just last forever and ever. They don't change every year. They don't...
Why do you want the old one? Why do you don't want the new one?
It was basically, again, getting back to my point of me not being funny. That was the funniest video game title I could come up with on very short notice.
I want that popular game. No, that's all right.
Now Red Dead Revolver is going to be like Jon Hamm's favorite, Red Dead Revolver. This is going to be your face.
Get those stickers made, shiny stickers.
But we talked about this briefly, but I had to give up video games.
I think we all had to give up video games at some point.
It was either that or do things in life.
Yeah.
And I just, I found myself in a position where I'm at auditions and I'm like, I got to get home and finish Wild Arms, and so I was just blowing auditions.
We were just saying when you start rejoicing in the fact that you didn't get a job because it means you'll have more time to play Halo.
Yep.
I cut back on video games really early on because I had a string throughout my entire life.
I thought you were going to say you got a stroke.
A stroke playing Tetris.
Don't call attention to
intense.
it. No, Joni, your face just looks a little melty on one side. You're fine.
But throughout my life, I got the wrong system. Like when the handhelds came out, I didn't get Game Boy. I got Atari Lynx. And then when the disc drive game systems came out, I didn't get PlayStation. I got Panasonic 3DO.
Sure.
And then when the next generation of the 32-bit, I got Sega Saturn.
Sure.
And so I failed.
You were backing the wrong horse.
Every time. So I never trust myself when wanting to buy electronics. I always got the wrong thing.
No. I'm not going to bet on Japanese electronics. You come to me and tell me that the Swiss are making a watch, and you've got my money.
Defending your life.
Defending your life. Defending your life. I love that movie.
It's a fantastic movie. One of the best movies ever made.
I saw it in the theater, and it blew me away. I mean, I was in college. Just from being a comedy nerd, I didn't relate to other kids that well, so it was very difficult as like a freshman or sophomore in college to try to convince other kids to be like, let's go see Defending Your Life. I want to go see Albert Brooks. Albert Brooks, comedy -1, blank, nothing. Oh, this is why I don't get invited to parties.
Will there be boobs?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, yes,
you might see Rip Torn's boobs.
The boobs are under a tupa, which is what they call their
at this
dead
point is a risk
gowns.
Anywhere. You might see Rip Torn's boobs.
You don't know. He might pull them out at a bank thinking it's his house. You don't know where you're going to see Rip Torn's tits. You never know. RipTornsTits.gov.
Check them out.
Somebody told me a story about Rip Torn on the set of Larry Sanders that he honestly uttered these words about Janine Garofalo. That Janine Garofalo, I'll bet her pussy smells fantastic. But it's Rip Torn. I hope Janine doesn't hear this podcast.
There's a couple ways to go about criticizing that comment. One is that, well, it's actually quite a nice thing to say.
I mean, it is. It's a compliment.
It's not like he was saying that I bet it smells terrible.
Right. But I bet it smells like a dumpster near a pier.
But to be honest, though, I'd imagine Rip Torn's the kind of guy that does want a smelly vagina. He does seem like the kind of guy, it was great. It smelled like horse shit.
It's a turnoff to him, right? It smells fantastic.
You're so well
Too bad.
You're so well kept.
You know when you leave a steak in the shed for a couple of days? That's kind of the experience.
No one does
Rip
that.
Torn. No one knows that.
The shed you keep out behind your bank.
In your shed?
Yeah, I got a steak shed out back.
Keep them dry.
That's how you got to eat your meat.
I believe in
Now,
refrigeration.
you guys have seen this clip on the internet, I'm assuming, of Rip Torn and Norman Mailer having a fist fight.
No.
What?
That's amazing.
YouTube it. It's funny. It's from the 70s.
They
so
actually
they're
get in a
all
fist
like
fight?
hale and healthy. Yeah, and it's like a picnic. And there are children there.
At a picnic.
Oh my God, Rip Torn, the
They're just
first
like
viral video
getting in a fist fight.
with Norman Mailer.
And it's it's got sound and everything. So somebody was there with a Super 8 camera, filming it with a microphone. It was not as easy as now.
God damn it! Now that's the '70s for you. When Norman Mailer and Rip Torn were getting a fist fight. Not now, when it's a bunch of fucking mouth breathing unibrow dudes jumping off their sheds in the backyard. Backyard
on
wrestling.
purpose.
That's the lifeblood of our show, Chris.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to attack. I didn't mean to attack our entire demographic and money resource for Web Soup. Attacking all that. There's someone else was working. On a show that Robert Stack was working on, and they were kind of in line behind him at craft service, and just out loud to himself as he was scooping vegetables onto his plate, he just kind of said to himself, "Ah, broccoli, broom of the lower intestines." These guys are great.
Again, not false.
Not false at all.
no.
Just maybe.
I'll bet this broccoli's pussy smells fantastic.
See, I would bet it smells like broccoli.
Rip Stack. That just matches the two guys together. It just smells like broccoli.
Not that great.
Broccoli puss. So, what's it? I mean, you're basically you must be working on your dream job. I mean, like when you're a young actor, you just kind of want to work, and it doesn't really matter what you work on because you just want to work.
I've certainly had those jobs.
I've seen your IMDb page. I know you were
Plenty of those.
That's
I know-
right.
I know
That's
you did a
right around the
Hughley's
time I met
episode.
you, because I remember I met you waiting in line to go see. I think maybe it was a Bart Coleman pilot. It was the
Yeah, it
Super
was
Happy
the- it
Fun
was-
Game Bomb thing.
Yeah, it was the sort of fake argument show.
Yeah, Crossballs.
Crossball.
Yeah, and then,
Crossballs.
Yeah, we met like just outside of the production.
Waiting in
room of
line.
Vine. Yeah, waiting in line.
Waiting in line on La Brea.
No, it was Vine.
Vine.
Yeah.
Even-
I think you
even
just
worse.
like you went
Hey
over.
guys, don't fight. Don't get all Rip Torn and Norman Mailer. Oh, that's what they were fighting about.
John.
I said Vine. No, it was Fountain.
But yeah, like I remember, like you were on your bike and you rode away, and then I asked Tall John. I was like, "Oh, what does John do?" He's like, "He's an actor." I was like, "I hope it works out for him." Though I didn't know it was.
Why don't you hope it works
currently
out for
working
us?
out. It was currently working out for you.
That was very nice of you, though, to put that out to the universe.
I tried.
very
So
nice.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Jonah's a star maker.
We just brought you here to thank Joe.
We're waiting.
The year 2004. Me and Jon Hamm on Vine or La Brea. It's up for debate.
I love the fact that I got on my bike.
Yeah, you're on a bike.
I was healthy then.
That's
Although riding a bike in Hollywood in the summer is probably like the worst thing you could do.
Yeah.
You know, now that your career is going so well, you should drive around on a tandem bike with a chauffeur in the front and just kind of kick your back.
Edward,
Yes. Yes, sir.
to the Jamba Juice.
All right, Mr. Ham. I made that chauffeur British because I didn't want to be racially insensitive.
British.
It was
Would
sort
you
of
get a British chauffeur?
You don't like my British accent.
I'm from England.
So much Doctor
Sharon
Who.
Osbourne.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. To your point, I guess, yeah, it is. It's a great job, but it is the most recent in a string of many jobs that weren't as great. So it's a long road. I mean, I would imagine it's similar, being a comic to sort of like there are those nights you're going to play the Chuckle Hut in wherever Sioux Falls,
Right.
South Dakota, and you go like, well, here it is. Here we are. I guess we're going to do the best we can and move on. So,
Right.
Ideally, it's an upward progression, and but it's like anything else. I guess it's. I remember this is one of the first times I didn't meet you, but I had seen you live. Was at Largo many years ago, and those shows were like you and Patton and Paul F. and Sarah Silverman and Tenacious D and Zach and all these guys who are now, blown up.
Yeah, they're all doing really well. I'm on a third-tier basic cable channel.
Well, it's funny because when I first started doing comedy in like 2002, right before, there was a show at iOS that Patton put together called Pricks, Punks, Perverts, and People. No, it was Matt Besser put together. Every week it was the same lineup. It was Matt Besser, Danielle Schneider, David Koechner, Jerry Minor, Patton Oswalt, Brian Posehn. And that was every week, and I was one of 3 people in the show, like in the audience.
For $5.
No, it was a free show.
Free,
I think.
yeah. Largo was $5.
Yeah,
Largo
it
was-
was a
Largo
free
was
show
$5.
every week, and no one was ever there. And it was like I felt like I was cheating the world.
Yeah.
I was like, I get to see these people every week, but I was a comedy nerd, so I knew. But
You're an
if
early
that show-
adopter.
If that show existed now, it could sell out the Largo every night.
It's
you,
crazy.
You have the opposite sensibility with comics that you do with video game platforms.
That's exactly. I can
You
pick 'em.
actually pick very good ones
Pick 'em,
very
yeah,
early.
exactly.
It's the guy who likes the
be honest,
comedy
though-
and crappy systems.
To be honest,
Joe
though, I
Ray.
wish I could switch it. If I could put my stock in electronics, I think I'd be doing a little better right now.
Those Monday Night Largo shows were
Oh, it was crazy.
beyond insane. I mean, not even just getting to perform with them, but also just being able to go and see. Like the first time I ever saw Mitch Hedberg live was at one of those Largo shows.
room.
I used to read about them living in Massachusetts, like in 2000.
How exciting, Matt.
2003. And I would say, when I get out there, I'm going to spend $5 and see these people.
And by that time, it was over.
Oh, sorry about it.
You missed it.
I saw
I feel
Mitch Hedberg do this thing on stage where he was like, and I never saw him do this anywhere else, but he was like, I have undertaken a writing project where I have written a spec menu. And so he just read this entire menu of food where it was like braised short ribs and a béarnaise sauce. I am not sure I am using braised correctly in that context. Like, it was fucking amazing. Amazing. So
Well, it was a funny time to be there too, because it was early when I started. The reason I went there is because it was cheap, and I knew a couple people, and so I eventually got to know enough people where I didn't have to stand in the ridiculously long
Right.
line. I could go around the back or go, hey, can go right through. But at a certain point, it got so crowded and so crazy that it overtook the venue, so to
Yeah.
speak. There were a couple like Tenacious D shows where like it was beyond standing room only, and it was ridiculous. So yeah, it's nice. It was a cool thing to be sort of in before everyone else was hip to it.
It feels like it started over with the M-Bar shows.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, there was these great shows that barely anybody were at, and then
all of a sudden, it
Yeah,
got crazy.
And then
crazy
those
big.
M-Bar shows were amazing, and
spilling
then
out.
that's
into
where
the
we
plane.
met.
that's where we
pretty much,
met. And then when they opened the UCB theater, and Ackerman was like, "Oh, we're gonna move CDR to Comedy Death Ray to UCB," I was like, "No one's gonna go to that.
It'll never work.
M-Bar, you can eat and you
Yeah.
can drink, and people don't. This is not a theater culture. They're not gonna go sit in a theater."
Yeah.
And I'm a fucking idiot because now, like,
sells out every
almost
week.
every
Crazy.
great show in Los Angeles happens at the UCB. So I didn't know. I was dumb, but.
So come on out, come to the UCB theater. Whenever you guys listening at home get this,
John-
and it'll be over by then.
Drop your headphones. And,
John is still doing he's doing the Comedy World favors by appearing on every show. I think everyone's
Well, I
calling
do-
in their favorite card.
I do go a lot. I mean, I just like going. First of all, it's relatively close to my house, and it's fairly easy.
What's your address? I don't think
situation.
anyone will.
Yeah, let
bother
me just
you
throw
if
that
you
out
just give
there.
your address.
It's Boulevard at
Do you live in a robot?
A boulevard.
Oh, right, Your Majesty. Boulevard.
a boulevard.
With the OU. Oh, okay. Nice diphthong, jackass. How often do you get to say that in conversations? What was the last show you went to at UCB?
Last Tuesday.
Oh, you were last Tuesday show?
Yeah, well, I got there very late, but the Sklars were there, and Nick Kroll, and that's all. They're the only people I saw. But Brody was hosting.
Brody.
Brody Stevens.
Still wearing.
I do podcasts.
Oh my God! See, you do an impression of Brody Stevens, and now at the top of every act is going to be like, often repeated by Jon Hamm, Brody
you will
Stevens.
find it out.
I know famous people.
It was amazing. Brody's his arm is in a cast right now, and Brody does warm up for Chelsea lately. So I just saw him. Actually, I did it with the Sklars a couple days ago, and because he has one arm in a cast, he just had one drumstick in his back pocket.
I saw it.
Brody was one of those guys where I heard people doing impressions of him, like because I started coming in 2002, and it was like shortly after I started hanging out, like I would hear people do Brody. It's like, Brody Stevens? I was like, no, they're like, Brody Stevens.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How come you won't have me on your podcast, but you'll talk about me in my bits?
Wait, why does he sound all
I don't
wackety?
know. That's
Listen up, fellas.
He was a megaphone singer earlier.
Thank you.
a little off an addy.
Counterfeit money machine.
Yeah.
Oh
So
man.
do you ever? So you never really did any live comedy at all?
No,
Because
not
you were
on
so
purpose.
great. Like, it was so fun doing Match Game. We did a bunch of Match Games.
That was a fun show. It was incredibly nerve-wracking for me, of course, because I was surrounded by people like you and Patton and Paul F. and sort of professional funny people. So the idea of being funny on purpose for me is terrifying.
But when people see, I mean, But when when
Also, the bar's fairly low when you come in as like the guy from Mad Men. They're like, "What's he gonna do? Like, smolder?"
actually, he smoldered really well, and he was very funny.
Very
There was
funny.
some really
Very
funny smoldering. Some really hot fuckable smoldering.
But that was like why the sort of the idea of hosting SNL wasn't that big of a. It was terrifying in many ways, but like the bar was incredibly low. It's like just don't fall over, don't run into the camera.
What was that
and don't
process
throw
like?
up.
What was the SNL process like?
It's an amazingly well-oiled machine. Like you just basically try to stay out of the way. And again, I think certain hosts have more or less involvement with either the writing. I mean, I know Zach's hosting it this week. I'm sure he has more involvement with the writing just because that's what he does.
Right.
You mean he's hosting it last Saturday, where it was really good.
Time warp. But I sort of let them, especially the first time, let them kind of do what they want. And you meet with everybody, and you meet with Lauren, and you meet with all the writers, and then you sort of go in, meet individually, and they pitch ideas, and you say that would be funny or not, or maybe, or whatever. And Wednesday of the week, you have 50 sketches that you're going to read that they wrote, the last 2 nights. And you go through like a 4-hour read through and just read all these sketches.
Oh my God.
And it's awesome. It's at a huge table. There's like the lady at the piano playing sound effects and people bringing wigs and props and stuff in there just to kind of make it better.
I feel like you're on like the old Sid Caesar show.
It
or
does.
something.
I mean, it really does. And plus, you're in this room on this stage on this floor of this building that has done this for 35 years. So you're sitting at the same table that everybody else sat at throughout the years. So it's kind of amazing, and also a little terrifying in many ways. So it's you get to look at them first, so you can be like, okay, what am I going to do with this one, or what am I going to do with that one?
And as the guest, you probably get the good side of the show and not the. It's my first year writing on SNL, and 3 of my sketches just got cut at the last minute.
Yeah.
And,
Were there any sketches that during the read through that you wanted that didn't get on?
The first time there was one that I thought was really funny called Apollo 11. I don't know if it'll ever make it on the air, but it was basically about the guys who got to go on the moon, and of course there was one dude who was left back in the capsule. And
Michael Collins.
Michael Collins was left in the capsule. Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong.
That's
if I'm
correct.
wrong, went out, and so it's the 3 dudes in the capsule saying, and the guy saying like, Michael, we're really sorry. We drew numbers, and this is how it works. And I'm playing Michael Collins. No, of course you guys. This is great. You guys deserve it. I'll be back here making sure everything's great. Be safe. This will be awesome. So they go out, and it's Forte and Hader, and they're like, I forgot. You're not going to believe this. What? Forgot my helmet. Forgot my space helmet. Like, how am I going to go out there? Like, you're an idiot. Like, you really need to get your head in the game. So they go back into the door, and it's locked. And they're like, wait, what's the deal? And they kind of shake the door, and I'm like, yeah, what do you want? And they're like, Aldrin forgot his helmet. Like, okay, let me just grab it for you. They're like, unlock the door, let us back in. I'm like, yeah. And I come in and like my spacesuit's kind of half off. I'm like, here's your helmet. Why are you guys? What are you doing? And they're like, what are you doing in there? They're like, nothing. Just go to the moon. Go to the moon. Do your thing. So they're like, okay. Slam door, locks. They're like, oh man, that was really weird. What's going on in there? Nothing. All right, well, let's get to the moon. Okay. Oh, fuck. What? Forgot the flag. We got to put the flag on there. Forgot the flag. I can't believe it. Oh, God. Well, all right. Knock, knock, knock. What? Knock, knock, knock. Armstrong forgot the flag. Can't we? What do you guys want? If you get the flag. Yeah. I don't think you're going to want to use the flag. So believe it or not,
it got cut.
A story about an astronaut masturbating and jerking off
on the
into the flag.
That's awesome.
Somehow didn't make it.
That's not surprising to me. It's because there was my favorite cut sketch from SNL of all time. I don't know if he ever actually made it, but this must have been like 10 years ago. I heard Robert Smigel pitched an animated. He pitched a Raid commercial, but for RU-486. So the thing was going to be, RU-486 gets down deep where babies hide. I guess it never. They were like, I guess we can't.
That one didn't really make it on.
It didn't really make it on. A
That's
little
surprising.
sensitive. A little sensitive
Surprising
about
to me.
that.
Masturbating in space, though, that's like coming in slow motion.
It really is.
How?
It really is.
I hear.
That's. I mean, I don't know. I've never.
I haven't simulated it.
I've never, let's say, taken a free fall jet ride and then tried to crank one out. But let's just say hypothetically.
You gotta time that shit just
But
right.
it is weird. Like one of the ones I did on the first show was a one that got cut at dress from Brian Williams' show. They do recycle sketches that either for whatever reason don't make it through table or dress or whatever. And I've watched a couple of the ones that went up on my second time went back in various sort of repurposed versions in the next week's show. So they do reuse stuff, and if it's funny and it just doesn't work, or somebody's not killing at the table, or the host doesn't get it right, or whatever, they'll put stuff up again. But if they don't keep recycling them. Like if it doesn't work like 3 times, it's like
That was the thing I heard
Maybe it
Odenkirk
doesn't
talking
work.
about once, where he said like that's what he hated at the time when he was at SNL. Is that like
Bob
they just
Odenkirk?
where they just kind of Bob Odenkirk would just like he said they would just kind of cut stuff and not really ever return to it as much as they should, or they would just try the same version of it and never rewrite it or retell it as much as they should.
And the really amazing thing of like how it works, like once you finally get your show set, and then it starts getting cut or tweaked or whatever because they have to fit it into this shoebox of a stage, and there's 3 huge cameras moving around, an audience and all this stuff, and sets that have to move around and everything, and by the time dress happens, then they have to cut a half an hour from the show because they purposely make dress rehearsal long so they can see what works and move it around and fit the pieces. It's like this crazy Tetris game where you have to fit everything into this box, and the box is 90 minutes long, and you have like 10 minutes for Weekend Update and 2 musical acts, and those things are blocked out, and commercial time and everything else, like there could be 9 3-minute sketches, there could be 2 10-minute sketches and 3 2-minute sketches. Like it's just crazy. And there's the lady with the little stopwatch who just like marks everything out, and they fit it all in there. And
You know what I always get stomach aches thinking about is television in the 50s when sitcoms were live.
Yeah, when it was all
I
like
just
that.
get fucking stomach aches thinking about like that was a stage production,
Yeah.
and you could not fuck
Every
it
week.
up. Yeah.
Every
and
week.
at least on SNL, in theory, you could kind of break the scene a little bit if you fuck up so bad. But like I Love Lucy or any of the Honeymooners or any of those, like you just could not fuck up no matter what.
Yeah, it was like we just go with it, and that's kind of what it is on SNL. Like things happen, like people miss cues, and somebody's wig isn't on, or the quick change doesn't happen fast enough, or like famously who's the singer that sort of
Sinead O'Connor?
no that mumbled her line.
Ashley Simpson.
Ashley Simpson.
I always get Sinead and Ashley Simpson mixed up. I'm sorry,
Classic
guys.
mistake.
Yeah, I mean their
Classic
styles
mistake.
are very similar, so I was
who sort of just like they played the wrong track, and she was whoops and walked off stage, and they're like,
She
she
did a
did a
jig.
jig first,
She did a
yeah.
she did do a nice.
She did do a little jig. Or when Jenny, why am I blanking on her last name? Though she said "fuck" at the top.
Oh, Jenny
Oh
Slate.
yeah, Slate.
yeah, Jenny Slate. Yeah, this season.
Third person to say fuck on SNL.
Third person ever.
Yeah, Charlie Rocket, and then Norm Macdonald, and now
Macdonald.
Jenny Slate.
Oh, when did Norm say it?
Daily.
He said it. Will Ferrell did this vomiting thing where he was vomiting, and Norm
The SNL
grabbed the
vomiting.
vomit.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Norm,
Vomiting out of your
Norm
shirt
grabbed
sleeve.
the vomit and tasted it, and he went, ugh. And he went, the fuck was that? And that was it.
That's fantastic.
I recorded that one. I had that on tape.
If only there were some world wide web of information
I don't
from
know,
which
man.
we
That's
could
kinda-
go
it's
see
Viacom.
Where could I
this.
see my VHS
Along with
tapes?
the Norman Mailer Rip Torn bout that took place in the 70s. You know, one sketch that could not be recycled for anyone else, Jon Hamm's Jon Hamm, which
Oh, yeah.
I fucking loved. And that was near the end of the show, right?
Yep.
I think that could have been a top of show.
Well,
That's up there with the Peter Sarsgaard.
written by the same, believe it or not, written by the same person. Seth Meyers unabashedly likes puns, and I had going back for the second one. He's like, "What do you think? Should we do another one?" I'm like, "I think that ship sailed. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, what was there? Like a product recall? Like, what is it possibly? What? How deep
I
can
think
we
that sketch is just.
mine this vein? Like,
I think it's just Jon Hamm's Jon Hamm. Remember?
right?
Remember this one?
Every line you have is just like followed by, huh, right? From the last time?
And he came up with the ham and bubbly
bubbly,
thing,
yeah.
which was very funny and killed. So I was happy to be a part of it. And Bublé did a great job. He was suitably nervous and rightfully so. I hate that guy. I'll kill him.
Wow! Jon Hamm throwdowns the gauntlet on Michael
right.
Bublé on the Nerdist podcast. That's all right. I don't think Bublé's ever going to come on the
foes.
show. Yeah, unlikely.
Well,
foes.
he actually is here right now, so why don't we bring him in?
Mike Bublé.
Mike,
Hello,
come on in.
everybody. Too bad there's not a rat pack for me to hang out with. Still banging broads.
He's engaged to be married.
Well,
How dare you?
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Michael Bublé.
Are these
wow?
are these free for alls?
Yeah. Have a water. They're for you. It's like I don't care who I hurt. Michael Bublé. I might make a Paris Hilton joke at some point.
This is the building to do it in.
Yeah, this is the. Oh yes, we're in the.
This feeds the monster.
We're on the E side actually, though. The G4 and E are in the same building, along with the Style Channel and Sound Network and the Golf Channel and Versus and.
How are the
FearNet?
G4 gang treated by the E and the Style gang? It feels
with
like,
scowls.
It feels like that is literally like a high school cafeteria
Well,
Yeah.
all right. I mean, like
with more cameras.
Here's what you have to understand. You know, you'll see, like when you look at the difference between the cubicles from the East Side and the G4 side. Like on the East Side, you'll see pictures from Us Magazine, like Misha Barton has cellulite, and then you'll
And
see
pictures of people's families or husbands.
right, and then on the G4 side, you'll see like a dildo and then a post-it note Tom Servo like Jonah made.
That's
You know,
my.
it's like
yeah.
it's just so funny to see the two like just
Yeah,
integrated
the girls,
together.
the girls from the dish will walk by my office and see like my Mega Man post-it note or my Tom Servo post-it note and just kind of.
What is that?
It's what-
Is that
What
supposed
are
to
you
be funny?
doing?
That's supposed to be funny.
The East Side doesn't smell like burning tires.
That's true.
It would.
Well, it's weird. It's like, like we were talking about this earlier. We're just like I walk around and I know when all those like all the girls at E and Style, they have to dress really well. Like they are required to dress like
Part of the
models.
gig, sure,
Yeah.
like-
And then they see all the guys from G4, and I just know they look at us and go, "Oh, that's a what
It's
a-
like high school.
It is, and the nerds are, we
But
have
it's
real
got to be
jobs.
part of the gig at G4 too that you have to dress like a nerd.
Yeah,
Isn't that
I'm
part
wearing a
of
Yo Gabba Gabba shirt underneath.
There you
It's,
go. See,
But
like
not ironically in your case.
No, I
Not
fucking
ironically.
love that show.
And then occasionally Seacrest will come misting out of the walls.
Yes,
He
buddy.
his feet just drag against the ground as he moves. And he says, "I've crossed oceans of time to find you, buddy."
Yeah, buddy.
Secretes through the walls.
He does. He just sort of. Wow.
Yeah, comedy. You up to, that's what when he sees Brad and Boyd are the EPs of Web Soup. He's just like, "You guys into comedy? You guys into some comedy?
Ready to look comedy jokes?
Comedy jokes?"
Comedy jokes? Yeah, I'm just gonna throw $1 million at your face.
yeah,
That's how I
guess what? Because I can.
That's right. I don't miss it, buddy. I don't miss it at all. Are you watching any nerdy stuff right now? I just finished season 3 of Doctor Who, and I fucking can't wrap my mind around how awesome I think that show is.
I jumped off the Doctor Who train a while ago, back when Tom Baker.
Oh
was
yeah, okay.
Doctor
So the
Who.
like classic textbook Doctor Who.
Textbook Doctor Who, where
You got to give David Tennant a chance.
where the it's not for lack of interest, but it was part of my BBC interest was back in the Doctor Who days. They also had a show called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
Yep.
which was I had read the book first, and when I found that they had a TV show of it, I was blown away because
Right.
it had super cool rudimentary animation in it, which was I thought was an excellent way to sort of get the idea of this Hitchhiker's Guide out there. And then that Doctor Who would always follow that, so I had that was my like 2-hour rock block of nerdy British comedy.
Well, Douglas Adams, I believe, was the story editor for those Tom Baker Doctor Who
Oh, really?
episodes, which is probably one of the reasons why.
Well, I'm pretty sure they had the same set designers too.
Mostly black.
So it's a black room and a couple of boxes. Well, all right then, let's shoot it. All
What was
right.
that? The Vogons and the I'm blanking on the bad guy's name in the Doctor Who
Decepticons.
world.
No, Jonah, no.
Huh?
80s. Have you ever seen comedy in England before?
I haven't.
It is so, the first time I went to London, I was like, oh my God, here I am, British comedy, home of Monty Python and fucking Chris Morris and all this amazing, brilliant comedy. And then you get there and you realize like, oh, their highbrow America's in between. Their highbrow comedy is more highbrow than our highest brow, and their lowbrow comedy is beyond
retarded.
Like it is so. Like, oh my god!
Wow,
What did he say? No words. No words.
Was that a bit?
I'll just shag this bird in a can. Applause break. Man, when I first saw stand up in London, and I did stand up in London, it's a completely different experience because in England, part of the sport of comedy there is the audience trying to derail the comic.
Sure.
And so it creates this insanely aggressive subspecies of comedians where they're just firing at people, and I didn't even understand most of it. They're like, oh, the Australians are here. Those Australians are fucking cunts, aren't they? And everyone's like rolling on the ground. I'm like, you
They
just
are,
called
though.
them
They
cunts.
really
That's
are.
all you. I don't even know. Or you go to the Edinburgh Festival and they're like, and you don't even understand. Not only do you you can barely understand Scottish comics, but then the references are super regional. Like, where are the Flatlanders at? Oh, yeah, goat huggers. And you're like, goat hugger? What am I doing here?
Is that good or bad?
I don't know. Have you done? Have you done anything over performance-wise over in the old UK?
I'm not. I have not spent a lot of time over there.
Are they airing the?
They are airing. I think they're one season behind, and it's fairly popular over there, which is great.
When do you start the new season?
The new season we will start shooting in about a month.
Oh shit!
So the new season will start airing at some point, like July, August, somewhere in there.
Nice.
But there was a rumor that they were going to release season 3 DVDs early because they usually release them like the week before the new season starts to sort of ramp up publicity and piggyback all that stuff. But they were saying that they might release them early. So I don't know. We did all the DVD commentary.
Catch up. I think that's
Yeah,
a better.
we did it all. We did all the extras stuff that we had to do. So it's there. It's just at this point, I'm sure being figured out packaging wise and whatnot.
Are you still shooting downtown? Mm-hmm. You were shooting at this.
You want the address of that?
Yeah, give me the address. You were shooting at this facility downtown, and I went to that facility for a meeting for another production, and all of the offices look like the Mad Men offices, except a lot of them are very run down. So, like the one that I went to had very similar furniture and the same doors and the same everything, but it was just really like, oh,
depressing.
no one has bothered to update. Like it lost a little bit of the charm.
Current TV is over there now.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, and like a lot. So I visit a lot of my friends because I used to work over there, and they get excited because they have Mad Men style offices.
You know, it's so amazing, and you know, I think one of my favorite things about just the concept of your show is that, you know, it's on a cable channel that you know that before Mad Men, I don't think that many people were, you know, super aware of. But the fact is, it really needs to. It's just like the rating system for television needs to change because, you know, a show on a small cable channel has permeated the culture so fucking much that it just doesn't, like, it's bigger than most network shows.
Well, it seems like there's a different metric at this point for measuring, I don't know, success or cultural impact, which is, I think, what they originally the Nielsen's were all about. Like, this is what the cultural impact would be because this many people are watching this particular thing.
When that was just a basic linear formula.
There was no other way to determine what sort of images or entertainment or you know, consumer goods were being seen by. And honestly, like, the whole reason that television was created was to put something interesting in between the commercials.
To sell dryer sheets.
Yeah, and so that's the reason they measured it, was so that how they would know how much to charge the advertisers. And so it is actually changing. The idea of a rating isn't anywhere near as important as it used to be. In fact, they've broken it down so much into demographics and micro demographics and penetration. There was this new
that sounds like a dick thing.
So close to doing something.
But there was this thing. There was a study that was released last season. It was called like the cultural penetration CPAs, the cultural penetration.
Yeah, CPAs.
Accountants.
Yeah.
What? But it was a thing that a advertising agency created because they wanted a more accurate way to determine what to charge their clients. Basically, they were like, we're not making money on stuff that they're getting a huge benefit out of. We want a new metric to determine what that number is. make it up. You're a 10, you're a 9, you're a 5, you're a whatever. And our show was like was the top rated cable show in that metric.
Right.
Of like when you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well done.
And you're welcome.
It's true, but I'm sure it's very difficult to measure cultural penetration when you have so many different outlets and like.
It's no more difficult to measure than anything else. I mean, you just have to sort of determine what the metric is.
But I guarantee you the networks are fucking terrified of that.
Well, they're
happening.
basically saying it's bullshit.
Right.
Ratings are the only thing that matter because that's really the only thing where they matter.
Yeah. In the way things work today, it makes sense that 1,000 people determine what gets on television. 1,000 people with Nielsen boxes.
Yeah.
It's totally ridiculous. God damn it! Now I'm just mad. Hey, do you guys ever? Does Vincent Kartheiser ever talk about Angel when he was on Angel at all? Does that ever come up?
It doesn't come up that often.
Hey guys, remember when this reminds me when I was an angel? Yeah, Vince, we get it. You were an angel. You were a demon vampire. Good for you.
Not a lot of crossover
You don't think so?
content-wise in our two shows. Yet.
Now, my last show,
Yeah.
I would just walk through a dimension door, and then I could just be places. Do you think Pete Campbell could? No!
No.
Listen,
Vinny, no.
I understand it seems like the show is in the past, but that doesn't mean that you can just walk through time.
No, we can't do that. You need to walk through the door. That's what I'm saying. I walk through the door.
Time door. It's a time door,
You
right?
open the door.
All right,
With
guys.
my mind.
It's not how Whedon would have done it, but fine. I'd love to see a Joss Whedon-directed Mad Men episode. That would be an interesting, full of
A musical episode.
a musical. Now, do you think the show will ever do something weird like that, or is it just too outside that world?
I don't think so. I think, our show could be, in a different iteration, I think it could be sort of a campy, almost winking version of what it is.
Right.
I mean, I think that there's certainly, and many people have attempted that, where they're, sort of parody versions of our show. But we've established, I think, that enough that it is very, for want of a better word, sort of serious in its aspect to sort of fuck around with it in that sense. So I doubt that will ever happen.
I'm writing Mad Men fan fiction. I hope Sally's okay. Well, John Slattery goes through the Dagobah system.
I don't think the sentence "John Slattery goes to the Dagobah system" has ever been uttered in the
uttered.
history of humanity.
You'd be
Put it in the
surprised.
history books.
Actually,
You'd be surprised.
totally right.
Well, let's bring him in.
Hey!
Bublé and I were just banging some broads, and then it's the worst John Slattery
That's a great
impersonation.
Slattery impression.
Is that a good one?
I don't know.
So what else is on tap? What else is on tap? What am I? That's such a fucking terrible talk show transition. What else is on tap, John?
What's on the tarmac right now for old Jon Hamm? Taxiing around the runway, any projects?
What's in the old talent closet for Jon Hamm? Let's open that up and see what falls out on our heads.
No skeletons, I hope, or do we?
Do you? What is some other stuff you're working on?
I will. Shot a movie over the fall with Ben Affleck.
Nice.
That he is directing and starring in. It's sort of a heist movie.
He strikes me as a guy who would be a
called
pretty
The
good
Town.
director.
Is it set in Boston?
It's set in Boston. Project Gas.
This guy's from Boston.
It's the shirt.
Yep.
The Red Sox.
I know you
Red
like
Sox
baseball.
shirts.
That almost disqualified you from being on this
I know.
podcast. You're like,
Well, that and the fact that you like Dave Matthews Band.
What?
What would you say?
Oh my God, it's perfect.
Take me out to the ball game. That's perfect. Yeah, that's St. Matthews.
Every day.
Take me out for the fun and the wieners.
I saw them at
Dave Matthews likes to
Fenway.
have fern.
Anyway, are you working on any projects with Dave Matthews?
Are you working on a?
I'm doing the new Dave Matthews biopic. It's very exciting. It's called Under the Table and Dreaming.
Perfect.
It's just really exciting.
That's what it would be called. That is totally what it would be called.
And I did a thing. Up in Vancouver with Zack Snyder, who did 300 and The Watchmen,
Yeah.
called Sucker
And the Dawn
Punch.
of the Dead remake.
You know, the Dead remake. It's called Sucker Punch. It's a very strange film that's sort of like Alice in Wonderland with machine guns and samurai swords, and it's really,
sounds
really
badass.
strange.
Say no more.
Now, let me ask you this, because
Tell me
I am
more.
certainly not at this point in my career, but what is it? How does your dynamic change, and how does the pressure change when you go from having to audition for stuff to actually probably having? I mean, I'm assuming people just offer you stuff now. Like, do you get kind of like, oh, I hope this is the right thing. Like, what's that?
Sure.
What's that like? What is that process?
It's very sort of anxiety ridden. And my experience was, kicking around Hollywood forever and not wondering what my next job was going to be and wondering, shit, like, what's rent? Well, we'll get to rent next month. So I always think that that's one step away. Going back there is one step away. So it's incredibly anxiety ridden to sort of be like, I'm going to do this one. I hope it doesn't utterly suck and end my career.
Do you think that's possible these days, though, for like a movie to end your career?
I don't know, honestly. Like, I hope not.
I don't think so.
I think at this point,
I worked with I did a sitcom years ago on UPN. Maybe it'll come back. I don't know. UPN, the up and coming network. But but this guy who directed the show, who directed a bunch of episodes, directed Bosom Buddies. And so he was there when Tom Hanks blew up, and he said Tom Hanks had this formula that if you had one hit movie, you got 3 more movies. If any one of those movies was a hit, you got 3 more movies. But it was like this kind of weird system of 3s. But I don't know if that's really. I don't know.
That makes as much sense as anything. I mean, I think it's one of those things. My decision process, at least, is trying to at this point sort of surround myself with people that I respect and think are better than me at most things, and so that's why I chose Zack Snyder, who I'm a huge fan of his work, and Affleck as well. I love Gone Baby Gone. I thought it was amazing, and Jeremy Renner, who's nominated for an Academy Award for Hurt Locker, is in this film with us, and Rebecca Hall, who I love from Vicky Cristina Barcelona, among other things. So it was just like a lot of good people, and I was like, well, that's a good table to sit at. I don't think that would be bad for me.
Every story that I've heard about Ben Affleck is that he's just like the nicest, most charming,
he's also
guy.
like wickedly intelligent.
Yeah.
Do you have to use the word wickedly because it's Ben Affleck?
Yeah, you're right. It's sort of a loss.
Dude, you're wicked smart.
And funny. And a good guy to be around. So that's another thing. Like, you don't want to, if you're stuck on location for 2.5 months, and you're stuck with some, tyrant that's insecure or freaked out, or it's his first job, or whatever.
We're not shooting today. Won't come out of the trailer.
Who was more handsome?
Matt, are you okay?
That's how I talk now.
Speaking of new projects, would you be interested in playing the Tom Hanks role in a Burbs remake?
Yes, Burbs 2.
Are they
Burbsier.
Far Burbsier. The Burbs.
Why not fucking remake the Burbs? They're remaking Bill and Ted's, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
They're also,
Burbs is a great movie.
also remaking Arthur.
Yeah.
No, you can't remake Arthur! I'm punching the wall!
With Jason
was
Weiner,
literally
director
punching
of Modern Family, which makes me have a little hope for it, because I really enjoy Modern
Yes,
Family.
but it was based on a character that Dudley Moore created. You can't have another, like, I'm the son of Arthur.
Do you know who's going to be playing Arthur? This might make it
Russell
very-
Brand.
Russell Brand.
Oh, it's Russell Brand?
Yeah.
I like Russell Brand.
Yeah.
I just don't know if, like, I don't think we need to, like, just make a movie where he's a happy drunk in another, but don't call it Arthur.
Darther?
Darther Mauler. It's all, Darth Maul is the drunk son of a space billionaire.
It'll be great. It's called Darfur. Darfur?
People love it. People give so much money to Darfur, they'll get confused and bring it to the movies.
Russell, it's just we're a little worried.
You're a space hooker? Jesus, I forgot. I was doing great with you.
Of coconuts.
Five people get that reference.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's certainly been fun to get back to the original point. Like, it's way better to not have to audition for things, because auditioning is terrible.
Worst process ever.
I don't know if you read the Steve Martin autobiography, but
Oh, yes.
he talks about it. He was like, I realized at a certain point that there is no way to get a job that you want through an audition process.
I remember because I get the audio version of all the Steve Martin books because he reads them.
Yeah.
So Born Standing Up, he looks around the room and he's like, I'm not going to get this job.
And so that made him go write The Jerk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're like, well, good for you.
Which still holds up.
Good call. Holds up. Funny.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the Jerk TV series with, one of the guys from Fridays bringing it back, Mark Blankfield.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Blaine Capatch showed me that. Like, there's
Yes,
a clip online.
they did a Jerk TV series where Mark Blankfield plays, who was on Fridays, plays the Nathan Johnson.
Yeah.
And it was not great. Not great. I hope Mark does not listen to the podcast. But where it wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
It wasn't his fault.
But that's exactly what we're talking about. That was specifically Steve Martin in
Right.
that movie.
Yeah.
There was no other way that would work, because it was written by him.
They tried to remake Heaven Can Wait
Yes.
with Chris Rock.
Yep.
And it's rarely a good idea anyway, but it's easy because the blueprint's already there.
Well,
So
everything now is just like, we need to present brands that people recognize. And
But I don't mind remakes, because like Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead is in my top 5 favorite zombie movies. It's a great zombie movie, and
but that's rare. He completely reimagined that.
yeah, zombies in a mall. That's pretty much all he used.
But his style, like he's so
Yeah, it was
like
great. But I saw The Crazies last night, and The Crazies, although it's not a very good movie, it's way better than George Romero's Crazies, which was horrible. It's
What about Birdemic?
what?
What about Birdemic?
Birdemic is a
It's sitting at
it's
home and waiting
poetry
to watch
in
it.
motion and CGI. I went to the premiere on Saturday last weekend.
CGI.
That thing was amazing. The guy the director, like he intended it for it to be so good, and now there's like this production company like putting it out with the intention of.
Is that the same guy that did the Shark versus
Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus?
Yeah.
No,
I
it's
don't think so.
Some dude from like Central California that just spent 4 years.
But
trying to
that
make
was
this
another
movie.
movie that enjoyed irony-based success,
Yeah.
which was interesting.
Let's put success in quotes.
Like The Room is successful.
Yeah.
People go see it every month.
I feel like this type of irony is just like a subculture phenomenon that would not have existed like 20 years ago, or even maybe 10 or 15 years ago. But it's just like internet culture has really brought the whole idea of something being ironically successful to the forefront.
Yeah.
And so, do you enjoy that as an artist? You're like, oh yeah, my movie's successful. Yes, it's successful because everyone thinks it's stupid. Like,
Yeah,
is
well, that's
that-
the thing. The Q&A afterwards, it's like, because there's a theater full of people yelling at the movie and and laughing throughout it. And Tim and Eric did the Q&A, and Tim asked him, he's like, what'd you feel about everyone laughing at your movie? He's like, well, people are enjoying it.
I also think like it's got to have some sort of sensibility of what the guy was meaning to do. If he was meaning to make this super serious thing, and it comes out that it's like American movie, like
Right.
that it's you clearly don't have talent for this.
Right.
Your talent is doing something else that you've sort of stumbled into. If you're okay with that, then you're okay with that. But that's what things like the internet and YouTube and the incredible explosion of the way to sort of disseminate media is created, is like really pointing out the flaws in some people's
Yeah. Well, it's like, I think...
abilities.
Yes,
Like,
the internet has
have you
no
ever
problem
seen
pointing out
Coven?
flaws.
Have you ever watched Coven?
No.
The movie they're making, an American movie. It's only 45 minutes long. I fell asleep 3 times trying to watch it. It's a
bad movie.
It's a bad movie. It is
Right.
no good.
All I'm saying is I think Mad Men could use some more CGI birds. Just think about it. Just talk to Matthew
We
Weiner.
had some in the first season.
CGI birds?
Yes, we did.
Which episode?
When
Was it called CGI birds?
It was called Shoot. Where
Oh yes, where Betty
the dog is jumping and
Yes,
climbing,
yes,
and it's like
yes.
one terrible CGI
And that's when
moment.
you, just to nerd out about your show, that's where you really start seeing like, oh, she has cracks in her. She's kind of broken inside. That was a phenomenal.
Sorry.
Hey, when you first get the script for the audition scenes for Mad Men, do you have any idea? Like, do you just have any idea, even when you get the job? Do you have any clue? Like, this is going to, create a whole phenomenon, or did they explain it to you? Oh, we're going to do this stylistically, or did you just think like, it's a drama, we're experimenting?
No, I mean, there's no way. There's so many steps between reading a script and a show being on the air that can be missteps, that can be fucked up somehow. So I read the script and I really liked the script. That's one thing. Okay, so it's a good script. It was in fact one of the best scripts I'd ever read. And then you see like, okay, this person's attached to it. This person's going to direct it. This person is going to be involved with it. And they were all people from The Sopranos. It was like, okay, there's another box checked. Like, I like The Sopranos. These people are talented. I like their work on The Sopranos. And we had the whole crew from The Sopranos. We had the set designer and the costume designer and the hair and makeup and the whole gang. And Alan Taylor, who directed the pilot, was a guy that had directed a million Sopranos. So you had all of these things, and you go, okay, well, that's, it could still suck, or AMC's never released a television show. We don't know if they know what they're doing. They could easily mismarket it or bury it or lose their nerve and not want to pay whatever it costs to truly put it out there and get it out there. And then once I saw the ad campaign, which is that big black and red and white graphic that was super arresting and interesting and didn't look like, wasn't a dude's face on a poster with like, look, the 60s.
Right.
That
like,
I was
like a Michael Bublé album cover.
and also like nobody knew who I was. So what's the point of having my face on a thing? You don't know it. And it's mysterious and it's cool and it all worked for the thing. So I was like, well, there's another box check. They did that right. And then I saw like the credit sequence that halfway through we're shooting the season, the producer comes up to me and goes, you want to see the credits? I was like, yeah. Oh, this is gonna suck.
It's Draper and Sterling and Cooper and advertising. You know how many times I've wanted to do a weird mashup where you guys are having a meeting and then I somehow through technology superimpose Endora hanging up in the top of your. Just do the Mad Men.
Yeah, you know, it's like that. That was another thing. I was like, that's great. They did another great job on that. And then it just every time they had a chance to make a bad decision or a good decision, it seemed like they made a great decision, which so rarely happens in anything. So at a certain point, and I was always incredibly proud of and happy of the work we were doing and the scripts that were coming in and the stuff we were reading, the story we were telling, that we were like, well, maybe this has a chance to do something. And then once the critics got a hold of it and started gushing about it, you were like, oh, okay. I guess what we think is what other people think too.
And that's what's amazing. I think I might have said Turner Classic Movies, or I meant AMC. But that's what's so amazing about going to work for a company like AMC is that they're a smaller company. There's not going to be as many people fucking up your project. They're probably excited to have these Sopranos people, and so they're smart enough to go. And this is what I never understand about networks, big networks. It's like, just let the creative people be creative. Let them do what you've hired them to do.
Yeah, don't bottleneck it.
Yeah, because, the more people you have getting involved, the more people can fuck it up because they have to justify their jobs. And then I'm sure at AMC, they're like, we're just so happy you guys are here. You do what you do, and we'll just put it out.
And that's part of it. I mean, at the time, and I still think it's the case, there were 4 people working in the television development department. I mean, they have more executives on an episode of 2.5 Men on one episode. There's 15. I used to do half-hour stuff, and you'd go to those run-throughs for the network people.
Oh my god!
And there were 40, 50 people sitting in the audience, and you're like, "What?"
You do a studio run-through, and then you do a network run-through,
and everybody's got a note.
Everyone,
because if you don't have a note, they're like, "What do you do? Why are you here?"
Yeah.
I worked on a show once where the big note from the head of the network was UPN was fuck, what is that guy? What is that, an orange sweater? No fucking orange sweaters. Like, he flipped out because an orange sweater fucked him when he was a kid, and now he couldn't have it on
his
a show.
Mother was murdered by an orange
sweater. So you guys
sweater.
probably don't get that at all anymore of any kind of...
The notes are generally very sparingly offered, and when they are, but also like the good thing about things like that is like when you get a note, it's usually something pertinent or something that is a genuine concern rather than like, what if we like, I'm just spitballing.
Don't spitball. Right. Have an idea before you say it.
What about?
No, just have a clear thought before.
But if I said,
no, wait till you know.
Bow tie.
Yes. Oh my god.
It's just whatever it is. So it's usually a much more streamlined process, which enables the people that are writing the show and putting the show together to do their jobs much quicker. They're not waiting for people, and we've been just incredibly fortunate, and it's played out in the actual reception of the show.
But that note actually happened with Rich Somer's character, right?
that was how
That's how the bow tie
Harry Crane.
Another great guy, like your cast, because I know Christina Hendricks too, and like everyone that I know from your show is so nice and just like.
Well, I think part of it too was like none of us were really any kind of a big deal. Like we're all just sort of little hacky working actors that were thrilled to have a job, much less a job that has the potential to be something interesting. And everybody has something to do on the show. It's not like there's one guy who's kind of like hauling water for everybody else.
Right.
And it's fulfilling. And so we have this nice, set and this nice group, and everybody's kind of at the same level in their world. So it doesn't feel like, oh my God, I can't talk to him. He's
right. First of all, you have to address him by his character's name,
right.
and then but don't address him.
So, and it's a very loose for the seriousness of the stuff we do. Generally, it's a very loose set, and people get along, and we shoot in the summertime, so it's like there's nobody on the lot. It's just us. We feel like we're kind of like broke into like the school in off hours and making our little thing. So it's fun.
Well, our hour is just about up, but Jon Hamm, I mean, funny, charming, talented,
gay.
Yeah.
handsome. Can I
Possibly
see
playing
your
Dave
balls?
Matthews in a
But seriously, John, put your balls on the table. I'm just saying.
I think you mean cards. No, you do actually mean balls, or you don't mean put your cards on the table?
No, I think balls.
Balls? Okay.
I kind of want to see both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's
You
only
gotta know
fair.
when to
Since
hold-
I'm
know when to
looking for
hold
one
them.
of each.
I mean your balls.
Pinch and roll them.
But are you going to are there any comedies coming down the pipeline? Because I think
Any comedy follies coming up?
any comedy movies.
I might be working on a film this summer. They'll shoot concurrently with Mad Men, but it's a very small part. So
Because I definitely think.
Shrek 4.
Shrek 4?
Oh, nice.
Fantastic.
There you go.
I think when people actually.
That's opening up Tribeca.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Look at there.
Yeah.
We're going to go.
Shrek goes fourth, right?
I think when people know you from all the other work that you've done, and then they're going to see you in a comedy and be like, holy fuck, he's really funny. And I think I just see.
Well, I
just
hope
see
they
a
don't work
whole
blue
other-
that way.
A whole other world opening up. You what?
I said I hope they don't work blue that way.
They will. Oh, fucking fuck! They'll say. In the theater. Why is this person swearing in a theater when we're here to see this Jon Hamm comedy? I don't understand why they're being such a dick.
He's so funny.
Express every impulse that comes through my fucking brain. Fuckity fuck.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming here to
on
our
the
offices.
We always earn the explicit tag right at the end.
Yeah, like it was fine up until that point, and then we got it. If they're gonna tag us with explicit, then we're gonna
explicit.
swear.
Yeah.
You've been warned.
Yeah, put it on there.
This
with
podcast's pussy smells great.
Thanks, Rip Torn. The end.
Hey guys, it's Chris. Thanks for listening to the Nerdist Podcast number 5 with Jon Hamm. Well, that royalty-free, smooth vibe jazz music bed can only mean one thing. It's time for live show stand-up plugs. Why? Because performing for no people sucks. So come see me March 11th and 12th at Comics in New York. Also performing will be Jonah Ray from this very podcast and God's Pottery. Also April 5th, we're going to do the first of what will hopefully be our monthly live Nerdist podcast series at Largo in Los Angeles. Our first guest will be Adam Savage of Mythbusters. He's going to perform something, we're going to talk to him, he's going to take questions, and then everyone will just hug afterwards for like an hour. Then April 10th, I'll be performing with my best pal Mike Furman at the Showbox at the Market in Seattle. So details on all these shows and more are at Nerdist.com, your one-stop shop for time-wasting nerdity. Thanks for listening. I heart you.
Now leaving Nerdist.com.